Well, hello, everybody. It is your favorite day of the week. Another day of a lifetime of Hallmark. I am Les Kirkendall Barrett. Hello, Jason Bowers.
Hello, Les Kirkendall Barrett.
And hello, Kurt Fitzpatrick.
Hello, Les Kirkendall Barrett, and hello, Jason Bowers.
We take movies from both Lifetime and the Hallmark Channel and try to make sense of them.
We're not very successful, though, because they don't often make sense, but they are fun to watch.
And we go down all kinds of rabbit holes. We talk about Angelian quite a bit. We talk about the show Enos.
June Squibb. We are team June Squibb all the way.
And we have Black China news every single episode.
So with that in mind, why don't you listen to a lifetime of Hallmark? You can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This is a Kirkendall Barrett presentation. Hello, everybody. It is your favorite day of the week. It's time for another episode of the Reality Reading Rainbow, where I talk about books written by reality stars, particularly those on the TV, on the channel Bravo, and I try to make sense of them. I am your host, Les Kirkendall Barrett. Hello, everybody. And I'm here to talk about books. Now, today, we are talking about the book Pretty Mess, written by Erika Jayne. And let me tell you, it lived up to its title. Well, okay, not the pretty part, but the book was just a mess, period. But before we get into the book, I have a couple of things that I want to talk to you guys about. Okay, so first and foremost, there is something that I need to address. Okay, so I am a huge fan of the Watch What Crappens podcast with Ben and Ronnie. As a matter of fact, first of all, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. Thanks for listening. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing up the Watch What Crappens podcast is just because if it wasn't for the Watch What Crappens podcast, I would not have this podcast because I am a Crappens fan. I am a member of one of the Crappens Facebook groups. And actually, I'm not going to say the name of the group just so we don't get inundated with people wanting to join because that happens sometimes. But anyway, my podcast was originated because of a joke that I started in the Crappens group, which basically was I found Denise Richards' book in a bargain bin as a joke. I started, as I was reading the book, putting facts on the group, and people in the group were like, oh my God, this is funny. You should turn this into a podcast. Cut 2 months later, it is now a podcast. But the reason I'm bringing this all up, though, is so I'm very active in the group. Hey, everybody, everybody's great. Everybody's nice. Everybody's supportive. It's one of the groups that it has not gone toxic. So it's not a toxic place. So you can actually go to the group and still have fun and still have a laugh. So the other day, I posted the fact that, so I read this book, Pretty Mess, that I bought with my own money, of course, and I got it on Audible. And this book was so bad that by the end of this book, I was so pissed off that I was like, if this book sucked so bad, I want my money back. So I returned it to Audible. Now, when I say I want my money back, I I already knew that you don't, when it's Audible and Amazon, you don't get your money back, which is fine, which I'm fine with, which I'm totally fine with, but you get a credit, right? And I hated this book so much that I was like, this book was not only a waste of my money, it was kind of a waste of my time. And the only reason it wasn't a full waste of my time is because now I get to come and talk to you all about it. And trust me, I read this book so you don't have to. But anyway, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to return this book. So I returned the book and I actually got a credit, right? Right. So I posted it on the group page, and someone who shall remain nameless had the nerve to accuse me of theft. Yeah, theft, the T word. Now, first of all, and I said this on the thread. First of all, this book was so bad that they should be accused of theft for charging people money for this thing. But secondly, I have dealt with Audible before, right? And so I know the Audible return policy. And you know what? So this person, accused me of theft, got very self-righteous about it, very high and mighty about it. At one point, they were even like, well, if Stassi returned it, you would give her crap. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not a pregnant white woman. So there you go. But secondly, I'm now going to read to you the Audible exchange policy. So, can I return? So here's a question. Can I return or exchange my book on Audible? And this is Audible's statement. If you're unhappy with your purchased book, you can return it or exchange it easily as long as it is within 365 days of the original purchase. Our exchange policy allows Audible Premium Plus members to take a chance on a new narrator without losing a credit. So there you go. In writing, a statement from Audible. Okay? And it's the thing that gets me is people are just so jonesing to pick a fight and just so jonesing to be self-righteous and toxic. They turned something that was just supposed to be fun and to get a laugh out of people into like this thing. Or they tried to turn it into a thing. They actually got very goofed on, including from myself. But the point is, chill the fuck out, people. Chill the fuck out. It's only a book, it's only a book written by someone on Bravo. Bravo's supposed to be fun. Bravo's supposed to be light. I do this podcast so that we can have a laugh together. Come on, the world's really fucked up right now, all right? And so we need to get fun and relax any chance we get. So, you know who you are. Please chill the fuck out. But that brings me to my next topic, which this incident actually inspired me. And it prompted me to do something that that's going to be helpful. And you know what? That is, I actually, after this whole thing went down, I decided to start my own Patreon. Now, for these, I shell out my own money for these books, which is fine because I love to read. I'm a collector of books. I keep books. I keep books way too long. So I love reading, and I especially love reading biographies because I love finding out. My thing is, I love to read about people and read about celebrities and kind of get into their heads and see what makes them tick and why they're acting the way they're acting. But what I didn't realize is buying a new book every few weeks, it's starting to add up. So I decided to, yes, I have started my own Patreon. So the Patreon, you go to patreon.com, and it is The Reality Reading Rainbow. Patreon.com, The Reality Reading Rainbow. And I've started up a Patreon page, and I have all sorts of perks and all sorts of tiers and all sorts of benefits. Some of them I think are going to be a lot of fun. But the point is, this actually will help me get the money that I need to buy more books. And more books means more shows. And so, yeah, it's hey, it's not a requirement, and if you can't afford to do it, you can't. And I totally get that because right now, not a lot of people are working right now. Let's face it. But if you do feel the urge, go to patreon.com, and the levels are like really doable. Like I think my lowest level is like $3. And we're talking like $3 a month. So and as you know, I don't know if you've ever dealt with Patreon, but you can start it and stop it whenever you want. So you're not locked into anything. So hey, head over to Patreon and check it out. The Reality Reading Rainbow at patreon.com. All right. So I'm 10 minutes in. So let's talk about this book, shall we? Pretty Mess by Erika Jayne. But you know what I'm going to do? Just to get you ready for this, just to get you prepped for this book, I am going to read you reviews from this book that were on Amazon. Okay, so let's start. All right, so review number 1. 1 star by Ms. Reader. The question is, what could have made this a 4 or 5 star listening experience for you? This is the person's answer. From the first chapter, I knew that this was a mistake buying it, but I had to force myself to listen to the entirety of it because I wanted to get my money's worth. She talked fast, and if you slowed it down, she sounded drunk. So either way, it was difficult. Here's another review. 1 star. Narrator loves yelling in your ear. Jesus Christ! Can someone teach this woman not to begin every sentence about 70 decibels louder than the previous one? My poor ears. Just keep the consistent volume, please. Here's another here's another review. There are no interesting Real Housewife stories and very few personal stories. It was basically a 5-hour-long justification of how she really is a performer, not just a rich, bored housewife. Message received. Okay, here's another review. It's a struggle to complete this ugly mess, even for a huge Real Housewives of Beverly Hills fangirl like myself. The stories are dry and nothing interesting despite being about a colorful woman. Erika's icy personality is noticeable and never really explored like you expect from a memoir. I've got a few more. Okay, this review just says dullness. Not as interesting as I thought it would be. Pretty boring, actually. Not recommended at all. And then my favorite one, the last one, my favorite heading. She got the title right. Pretty mess. From the first chapter. Oh, that was the I already read this one. Oh, here's the last one. Sorry about that. The last review is the question was, who would you cast as a narrator instead of Erika Jayne? The answer, no one. The book was about the most self-absorbed person on the planet. Oh, one more. Sorry, one more. Oh, actually, it 1 star. It sucks. I actually met Erika on this book tour as I was a fan and went to the signing. She was so unpleasant and acted like she was doing us a favor. Then I got home and read this book. Let's just say the book is meh. That's it. Just meh. Oh, okay. Wait. Here's one more. Okay. What reaction did this book spark in you? Anger, sadness, or disappointment? The answer, disappointment. I used to like her. Now, after reading her book, not so much anymore. She was flip-flopping from calling her mother Renee to calling her mother. And she did the same thing with her grandmother. It was confusing and disrespectful. At least her mother was there through her life, as Erika disses her throughout the whole book. True. I found myself talking between her lines, the real truth to almost every sentence. She is obviously trying to convince herself otherwise by writing this book. I felt so sorry for Renee, her mother. How embarrassing for her. I hope Renee didn't read this book. And those, my friends, are some of the reviews of this book. And let me tell you, I agree with these reviews. Okay, maybe the one about, her mother, that one, the person was kind of a little extra harsh. But the gist of it was pretty true. This book was, okay, the book actually kind of pissed me off, all right? Because I listened to it on Audible. And the person who said that she sounded like she was acting like she was doing us a favor was right on the money. That's actually, honestly, the vibe I got while I was listening to this on Audible. Like, she was like doing us some favor, like reading this book, as we're spending our money buying this, we're spending our hard-earned money buying this piece of shit. One of the things that I like about biographies and autobiographies is the fact that when you read the biography or the autobiography, you leave having, feeling that you actually know more about the person. The cool thing about doing these different books about like Bravo celebrities is after reading these books, it's kind of cool for me because I kind of understand why some of these people do the things that they do. Like for example, because I leave reading the book feeling that I actually know the people better or know the characters better. Okay, here's an example. Okay, I read the Denise Richards book, right? Remember how when the women were all coming after Denise last season, how she, instead of like yelling at them and stuff, she kind of clammed up. Now, having read her book, in her book, one of the main things she talks about is the fact that she hates confrontation. Whenever people come after her, she clams up. She says that in her book. So when it happened on the show, I was like, oh, okay, this totally tracks. Boom. All right. I read the Mama D book. First of all, Mama D spends the majority of the book talking about how when she was a young woman, she was actually just beyond stunning. And she could get anything she wanted and any man she wanted because of her looks. She said that about herself, right? Look at Mama D. She's an older woman now, but that kind of tracks, right? Also, so one of the things that Mama D talks about in her book is the fact that when she was having major cancer surgery when Deandra was in college, Deandra, instead of choosing to be with her mother as she's recovering from major cancer surgery, Deandra went away on spring break. And Mama D talks about that. Mama D says they ended up having to go to family therapy because of that. And Mama D talks about how that was kind of a rift between them for many decades. So then when you look at when it's time for Deandra to get the company and Mama D kind of fucked with her for a few years, you then look at this incident and go, oh my God, okay, boom, that totally makes sense. That totally tracks. I get it. House of Hilton. So, the book was about Paris Hilton and her relatives. So there was a big, huge chunk in the book about Paris Hilton's grandmother, Big Kathy Richards, who is mother to Kathy, Kim, and Kyle. And in the book, you see that, the woman was kind of bonkers. And the woman was obsessed with her daughters making it in show business. The woman was obsessed with her daughters marrying rich men. She would kind of pit Kim and Kyle against each other sometimes, career-wise. You see that, and it set it up. So then when Kim and Kyle treat each other the way that they treat each other on the show, once again, it's like, oh, boom, okay, this tracks. I totally get this. All right. I left this Erika Jayne book feeling like I learned nothing about her. And not only did I feel like I learned nothing about her because it was all just surface stuff, the thing that actually really, really pissed me off is she spent so much time bragging about what a good person her husband Tom is, what a fine, upstanding person her husband Tom is. She's bragging about their private jet and having all this money and the things that they do with this money. Cut to Tom and Erika are both in trouble because Tom misappropriating funds from his clients. And the money that literally funded her career because he funded her career, which I will get to. All of that money came from accident victims who needed their money, who were completely 100% ripped off. So she literally made her career off of the backs of accident victims, which I think is absolute bullshit. So the combination of her not revealing anything and her bragging to the point that, you realize, wait a minute, bitch. The only reason you're famous is because of all these poor accident people, these people in these accidents who need this money, but no, your husband's not giving them the money, allegedly. Let's just say allegedly, just to cover my ass. He's not giving them money allegedly, but he's taking this money instead and funding your singing career. Right? I mean, you think about that for a second. That's just bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. So okay. Let's get into this and get it over with. Okay, so, and by the way, before I get started, I gotta tell you this. Whoever was the ghostwriter for this book, I gotta tell you, the book was actually well written, right? It was well structured, it was well written, but I do understand that as a ghostwriter, you basically the only thing that you have to write this book is the information that your client gives you, right? So I'm not blaming the ghostwriter at all because actually not it was structured well. Also, which I'm going to get into as well, on Erica's part, this book was actually a wasted opportunity because she could have used this book for good. And I'll get into that later too. Okay, so we start out when she's in kindergarten, right? And the title of this chapter was about being an Eve Harrington. So, for those of you who don't know who Eve Harrington is, there's a famous movie with Betty Davis called All About Eve. Oh, Betty Davis and Celeste Holm was in it too, called All About Eve, and it was a story about this middle-aged actress, right? And she's kind of on the tail end of her career, and it's about how this younger actress literally comes in and basically steals her spot, steals her career. The woman's younger, she's prettier, and like it's pretty sad because it's pretty much about how how ageist this society can be, and how easy it is for a middle-aged woman to get pushed out of things just because of ageism and sexism. It was it's sexism too. So she starts out talking about how she was a little Eve Harrington. So of course I'm thinking, ooh, this is gonna be juicy. She's a little girl and she stole somebody's, she went in and schemed and manipulated and stole one of her classmates' role in the school play or something. No. Basically, this is the gist of the story. Okay. So she says she's in kindergarten. It's the school play. All the kids in the class were assigned roles. The girl in the lead role sucked. And at 5 years old, Erika walked up to the teacher and said, I can do the role better than her. And so then the teacher gave Erika the role. That was it. No excitement, no intrigue. She didn't, scheme behind the girl's back and kick her in the legs or like cut up her dress, or what was it on Showgirls, throw marbles on the floor while she was dancing. None of that excitement. She told the teacher that she could do the role better. The teacher gave her the role, period. And Erika then says that she has been an Eve Harrington ever since. If I was Eve Harrington, I'd be insulted. Unless she Eve Harringtons you by boring you to death. So then she goes on to say, she talks about how her mom was a single mother. She was a piano teacher. She said that, then she goes into, so she starts off when she was 5, right? Okay, by the way, this book, she goes on and on and on and on and on about her childhood. Was it a remarkable childhood? No. Was she an exciting, intelligent child who was like a genius or something? No. Did she do amazing things as a child? No. She literally was a kid, but talked like probably for 6 or 7 chapters about her being a kid. And every time she would tell another story, in my head, it was kind of like, okay. Oh, okay. So on Watch What Crappens, Ronnie on Watch What Crappens. This one time, he was doing. He was making fun of Kim D from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And Kim D was arguing with one of the women, and they would say something to Kim D, and she'd go, "So what? So what? So what?" That's how I felt in this book. Because Erika would tell something about her life or her childhood, and I would just go, "So what? So what?" Okay, so then so Erika goes from when she's 5 to when she's 3 years old. And she said that when she was 3 years old, whenever her mom would have people over, she wouldn't come out and meet the people in the living room unless she was properly introduced. So if like her mom had company over, she'd have to say, "Presenting Erika." And then Erika would go into the living room. Okay. As Kim D would say, "So what?" So she said she always wanted to be a showgirl. She knew that since she was a little girl, she wanted to be a showgirl. And she said that, she grew up in Georgia. And when she was 3, her mom's friend recommended her to a talent agent in Georgia. So she became like a little child actress. Then she goes in to talk about how her mom was a young mother. So she goes on saying then she talks about how she never saw her mom as a mother figure. She actually saw her mother more of as an older sister figure. And so she never calls her mom. She calls her mom Renee. Like one of the reviewers said that this bothered them. Didn't bother me, but hey, I call my mother by her first name too. My mother's name is Betty, and sometimes I call her Betty. So, as Kim D would say, "So what?" By the way, if you're new to listening to this and you don't really watch a lot of Bravo or Real Housewives, I kind of sometimes go into Bravo references. And you know what I'm going to start doing? Just in case, I'm going to kind of explain things and recommend things. So if you are new listening to this podcast and you don't know who Kim D from the Real Housewives of New Jersey is, go to wherever you can get back episodes of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Start from season 1 and watch it and enjoy it. And see, now you have a new show to watch. So anyway, Erika said that like when she was in high school, she filmed a public service announcement about drugs. She said that, at an early age, her mother would take the money that she made from her gigs and put it into a savings account. So, okay. But that was it. She just put it in a savings account. So yeah, later on in the book, Erika didn't come out and didn't tell some incredible story. Like when I was a kid, my mom put all of my money into a savings account. And when I was 18, I got the money and she had saved thousands of dollars. So it wasn't interesting that way. It also wasn't interesting in the other way that you want to read stuff when you read autobiographies by people, aka my mother took all of my money when I was a kid and she put it into a savings account. And then when I turned 18, I went to the savings account to get the money and the money was gone. No. So nothing remarkably good happened with the money. Nothing remarkably bad happened with the money. The mother put her money into a savings account. Well, that's what parents do. I remember when I was a little kid, my parents opened up a savings account for me too. And yeah, it was no remarkable story. They opened up a savings account. So what? So Erika says that her mom opening up a savings account taught her how to put money back into show business. And so she said that this lesson was going to help her as she got older and became an adult. How, putting money back into making money and putting it back into show business. Well, as we've learned from the press, yeah, Erika knows about putting money back into show business. It's just not her money, it's money from accident victims. So there you go. So it's funny. So as I was listening to the Audible book, I keep notes. So the part where she said this about putting her money back into show business, this is what my notes say under that. Your money? Question mark. Your money? Question mark. Yeah, your husband put other people's money into your career. That's what my note said. Okay, so anyway, she said that when she was in children's theater, she won the personality award when she did a recital. Okay, so then she goes on and talks about how she did children's theater and her mom would make the costumes for children's theater. Then she talks about how, she got a little older. She took voice lessons and dance lessons. And she said, like, when she was in voice lessons and dance lessons, she had a little friend named Kim. But then when she got to high school, her and Kim lost touch. But that was it. There was no touching story behind it. There was no antidote. It literally was, I had a friend named Kim. We lost touch in high school. That was it. So once again, so what? So what? You had a friend. Good for you. Didn't we all have a friend who we lost touch with? Well, back then, when I was a little kid, I'm a man of a certain age. So when I was a little kid, we didn't have Facebook or, social media. So that happened back then. Oh, so she said when she went to a performance summer camp. Okay. She said when she was 10, she did a show. She did a kids show. She was the only child growing up. She said that getting involved in community theater and theater is how she kind of got to know the LGBTQ community. Okay, so I will give her credit. She is very supportive of the LGBTQ community. I give her credit for that. So she said that that's where she was exposed. Okay, so she says, so then she goes and talk about how when she was in 4th grade, she was in a talent show and she sang Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. And she, she would sing Dolly Parton all the time. That was like her, when she was in 4th grade, Dolly Parton was like her go-to number. But she was in this talent show and she wanted to sing Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, but her mother forced her to sing My Favorite Things from the Sound of Music instead. And so she didn't do as well as she wanted to do because she wishes she would have followed her instincts and sang 9 to 5. Okay, Erika, you were 8. You were 8. Okay. All right. Whatever. So she says that she says that when she was in 8th grade, she went to see Madonna, and so seeing Madonna helped her realize that this is what she was meant to do. So she then went to a performing arts high school, and then she said, and when she was a sophomore in high school, she went on tour with her class. Now, okay, so you know what? And this is sounding, as dry and as boring as this sounds, this is as dry and as boring as the book was. Seriously. So her biggest scandal when she was in high school. Okay, get ready. This is scandalous, you guys. She was a senior in high school, and she decided not to try out for the senior play. And so, which was Pippin. And so her voice teacher called her mother and said, if Erika doesn't audition for the senior play, I'm not going to give her her diploma. And so she did the senior play, and she said this is when she started being typecast because she was cast as a temptress. And then she got pissed off while doing the play because that's right. She auditioned for the play. She ended up getting an understudy instead of the lead role, which, okay, first of all right, if it's a play that you really didn't feel like doing anyway, and you did it to get your diploma, and you were given the understudy role, I don't know why you're bitching. Because the understudy role basically means that if the star needs a break, you fill in for the star. Which means if it's something that you really don't want to be doing anyway, it's much less of a commitment. Yeah, you go to the rehearsals, you learn the lines, but if the person who you're understudying for decides that they want to do every show, that means you don't have to do it. Okay, so I know why she's bitching about it. But wait, get this. Okay, so she gets the understudy part because the other girl in the lead role was kind of slacking. So she says that the teacher, that she thinks the teacher did this to light a fire under the other girl, which the teacher probably did. I'm sure that's why the teacher did this. So then she got mad because after she got the understudy role, even though she didn't want to do this play in the first place, the girl actually stepped it up. And so she wasn't replacing the girl. So then she got pissed because even though she's like, yeah, I don't want to do this play, so I'm the understudy. Once she became the understudy, she was like, okay, now I'm pissed because the girl stepped it up. And so now I'm not getting a chance to do any performances. And actually, I guess the teacher did guarantee her a couple of performances. So it wasn't like she was wasting her time. She was going to get performances, just not the whole run. So she said that she basically, long story short, she got mad about this. And so she quit. So she quit the show and she got her diploma anyway. So it wasn't like I quit the show and then I had to fight for my diploma. No, she quit the show and got her diploma. So what? She said that her dad left her mom when she was 9 months old. Her mom was a teenage mother. I think her mom got pregnant when she was like 16. Her mom always wanted to be an artist, but since she had a little kid, she had to support the kid. So she became She became a bank teller, but even though she became a bank teller, she still did her art. She just had to have a day job. Okay, so I'm an artist, right? I'm a performer, and sometimes when you're a performer, if you don't have a rich husband who's stealing from his clients to fund your career, sometimes you have to have a day job to pay your bills when you're waiting for your big break. In other words, so your mom had to have a day job. Gee, how oppressive. We've all had to have day jobs. I've had times in my career I've had to have day jobs. That's the nature of the business. So what? Oh, so then she said that when she was bad, her mom would spank her. All right, but okay, this was back in the era when you could spank your kids. I mean, I'm not a fan of spanking. I'm not a spanking advocate. Uh, I'm in the process of being of adoption with my husband. We're not going to be we're not going to be spankers. I don't believe in it. But okay, so Erika Jayne and I, she's actually younger than I am. So when I was a kid in my generation, it was acceptable to spank your kids. It was, I'm not saying it was right. I actually think spanking is, you do what you do, but I personally don't think that spanking helps your kids. But back in the 70s, it was not an unusual thing to spank your kids. So there you go. She says her mother didn't have any joy. Okay, she was a single mother at 16 and she had to go out and work. So, all right. Okay. That's not anything unusual. So, what else? Oh, she said that, when she was very little, until she started school, she had no friends. She said her mom was very indecisive and her mother treated her like an adult. And she said her mom would always be honest with her and tell her what was going on. Okay. She says that she so she says that she grew up she says she grew up very fast, and this is one of her examples of her growing up fast. She said that she got an agent like when she was a kid, and so I guess when she was like around like 7 or 8, when she could actually talk on the phone, her mom would make her call her agent to get information about her appointments and book her appointments. Okay, all right, let's back this up. You're like 8 years old, right? 8 or 9 years old. You can talk on the phone. If I'm going to have to cart your ass to an audition, there are times that since you can communicate with your agent and it's your job, part of teaching a little kid responsibility is to make them responsible for things like that. Like, hey, if you're 8 or 9 and you can talk on the phone to your agent, why don't you call your agent and find out when all of your appointments are? Because this is going to teach you that when you're an adult and I'm not here to drive you to your appointments, you're going to have to use this skill on your own to talk to your agents. And it's called the business of show business. Boom. There you go. So Erika says that she was close with her grandparents, and her grandparents always told her that the world was hard and life was tough. Okay, they're not wrong. They weren't wrong. She then says, oh, so she says her mom was mean to her sometimes, but this is an example of her mom being mean to her. She said she's learning how to water ski, and her mom lied to her and told her that there was a snake in the water to make her get on the water skis. And that was it. That was the example of her mom being mean. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so this next part I did have, I kind of had an issue with it for obvious reasons. So Erika says that when she was a little kid, she was in The Wiz. She was in a stage version of The Wiz. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, there is the movie The Wizard of Oz. And then there was a Broadway show based on The Wizard of Oz. And it was also a movie too, called The Wiz. The reason why I have a problem with this, if she was in The Wiz, is because The Wiz is an all-black cast. Let me repeat myself. The Wiz is an all-black cast. So if Erika was in a stage version of The Wiz, that, my friends, is an issue. And I'll leave it at that. She then says once she was performing on stage and her mom laughed at her performance, and she said that her mom would do things like tell her, like, recommend numbers for her and then like give her shit about it. Like she said one time she was in the school talent show and her mom told her to sing Phantom of the Opera. And so while she was singing Phantom of the Opera, her mom would make faces at her from the audience. I'm sure actually she was because I could imagine Erika being like this insufferable child. And so I could see Erika being on stage and her mom sitting in the audience just rolling her eyes going, oh my God, this kid. And then I wrote a little note here. On my notes. Erika does not sound enthusiastic about recording this book at all. And she did it. The person in the review who said that she basically sounded like she was doing us a favor when she was recording this episode was absolutely right. Okay. So then Erika says that like when she was a kid, one time she was she said when she was a kid, one time she was in an accident at school and she got a concussion. And so her mom had to come and pick her up to take her to the hospital. And so she showed up. She said her mom showed up wearing Erika's Dolly Parton costume, because I guess it was Halloween or something. And so Erika had a thing for Dolly Parton. And so she said her mom showed up at school dressed in her Dolly Parton costume, and she took this as a sign that her mother was jealous of her, even though it was Halloween and her mother needed a costume. Okay, whatever. So she did say her mom did say something cruel. Now, this is mean. She did say sometimes her mom, if her and her mom were in a heated argument, her mom would yell, "I wish I didn't have you." Okay, that is mean. That I give Erika, yeah, that is mean. You should never say that to a kid, ever. So she said that her mom taught piano, And she says even to this day, she loves it when her mother plays piano. She says now her and her mom get along great. Her and her mom, like, they get along great, you know. She said in 2008, her mom, so basically she said her mom, after working at the bank, her mom went on to become like a mortgage broker, and like a successful mortgage broker. She was really good at being a mortgage broker. And so she says that in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, her mom went to school and got a fine arts degree in 2008. So that's inspiring because her mom was middle-aged at that point. And the fact that a middle-aged woman went to school and got a degree, hey, that's a good thing. So Erika says that now every summer, Erika now sends her mom on a painting trip with crash victims' money. She uses the crash victims' money to send her mom on painting trips. There you go. She says that like her paternal grandfather, she only met him once. She then says she only met her paternal grandmother once, and she was El Salvadorian. She says that in El Salvador, she says that I guess she has like 3 uncles, and she said that that her grandfather moved to El Salvador, married this El Salvadorian woman, and built a shed in back of their house and made his 3 sons live in a shed. And she only met them once. Then she goes into her parents. She talks about how her parents met at a party. You know, her parents met at a party. Her mom got pregnant. Her mom was really young. Then she says, oh no, actually, this is about her stepfather. It was about her stepfather. So she said she knew at 3 that her mom and her stepfather weren't destined to last. And her mom and her stepfather had this on again, off again relationship. And so she said, okay, so this next story is really evil. Okay. And I don't even get what her point was in telling this story. Because it was okay. So she says that when she was a little kid, like she was under 5 years old, she didn't like to sleep in bed by herself. And so she would go and sleep in bed with her parents, which a lot of little kids do. And she's a part of the reason why is because she was afraid of the dark, and she's still to this day afraid of the dark, right? So she said that one time when she was like a little kid, her mom had gone away on a trip, and her stepdad was sleeping in the guest room. And so she went and crawled into bed with her stepfather in the guest room. And so she said that she got mad at him because they were sleeping in the guest room, and she wondered why they weren't sleeping in the parents' regular bedroom. And so she said she got so mad at him because they were sleeping in the guest room that she purposefully peed the bed. Okay, yeah, exactly. And her dad left her mom soon after that. She purposely, that had nothing to do with it, but that was the next sentence. She says she purposely peed the bed, and then her dad left soon after. And then at this point, I wrote a note. This is my note to myself as I'm listening to this part. My note, and I quote, "Oh my God, There are chapters upon chapters about her childhood. God damn it, she's only 10 at this point. So that's how I was feeling going through this book. So she said she feels that her mom, let her stepfather kind of ruin her life because her stepfather left and left her mom with nothing. But then her mom went and got her mom then became this mortgage broker. So actually, they weren't broke. And last time I checked, a mortgage broker, it's not a bad job. So, she kind of had ins and outs with her stepfather. She said that, once the stepfather left, at first he had visitation. Then she just decided, for whatever reason, that she didn't want to go to visitation with her stepfather anymore. She didn't see him again until she was an adult. She says that Erika Jayne ends up meeting her biological father. And she said that she met her biological father. She was an adult at this point. She was living in New York, but she came out to LA to meet him. And she said that her biological father was staying at this hotel in West Hollywood called the Le Parc Hotel in West Hollywood. Guess who used to live next door to the Le Parc Hotel in West Hollywood? Guess. I'll give you a hint. His name is Les Kirkendall Barrett. So she was actually staying near my house. So she met her dad. She said that she met her biological father. He gave her a bracelet as a gift. And then she said she pawned it when she went back to New York to pay her rent. She then said that her biological father had remarried, and he had a little daughter who was actually younger than Erika's son at the time. And so she says that she's getting to know her father better. They're talking, and at one point they were talking about the kids. And she says that her dad says to her, because her dad was now married to someone else. And when she asks her dad, well, what made you to just decide to have another child so late in life? Because he was like probably in his 50s or 60s at this point. She says that her dad said to her, she's like, when she's asked what prompted you to have a child, she said that her dad says to her, well, my wife never had children and I never had children. And then after he said it, he looked at Erika and realized he had fucked up because he had children. Erika. So that was actually very hurtful to her. And even though, I am critical of her, but, hurtful things like this, I do acknowledge that stuff like that is hurtful. Right. So then she goes into Tom. Then she goes into start talking about Tom Girardi. So she then says that the fact that Tom Girardi is 33 years older than her is no big deal. Well, okay. Let's think about this for a second. So I think if Tom Girardi was 33 years older than her, and was an Uber driver, or if Tom Girardi was 33 years older than her and had a regular office job and was not a multimillionaire, or I think if Charles Girardi was 33 years older than her and worked at Target, I have a feeling it would make a difference. Just saying. Then she brags about flying her Gulfstream to New York, and how flying her Gulfstream to New York brought back memories because the place where they parked their Gulfstream jet is near the place that she used to work called Shakers, which she actually talked about on the show. So she says, so basically, well, and actually the Gulfstream jet that was bought with the money that was allegedly stolen from accident victims. Just saying. So then, okay, so Erika says she graduates from high school. She decides to move to New York. Her mother decides to move to New York with her. So, okay, here's the deal. Now, you could tell all the struggling actress stories that you want. Now, let me use myself as an example. When I was younger, before I moved to LA, was a struggling actor in New York. I, shared an apartment with a couple of, shared the little box apartment with a couple of other people. I had to have shitty day jobs because if I didn't pay, I had to make rent. The basic struggling actors thing, right? So she tries to tell her struggling actress stories, but here's the deal. Okay, she moved to New York. Her mother moved to New York with her. Her mother got a job in the mortgage industry. She lived in an apartment with her mother. Now, she said that her mother was hard on her, so her mother demanded that she pay rent. Okay, but this is where she loses me. Okay, so when I was in my 20s and living in New York, I was not living with my mother or with my parent. So if I didn't make rent, I was going to get kicked out of the house. I always made rent and I was fine. But, there were stakes there because it's like I had to go and I had to be a struggling actor and I had to make rent so when I get a roof over my head. Cut to, yeah, she's a struggling actress. She's living in New York, but she's a struggling actress living in New York with her mother. I doubt your mother is going to kick you out into the street in New York if you don't pay your rent. Get where I'm going with this? So, yeah, living with your mother while you're a struggling actress in New York kind of takes the stakes and the danger out of it, if you know what I mean. So she says that, so she's living with her mother. Her mom has this good job, but her mom's charging her rent. They actually lived in the they lived in the fucking Upper West Side. Okay, I don't know if you've been to New York or not. The Upper West Side is nice. It's nice. Like it's not like luxury Manhattan level nice, but it's not bad. It's not like the ghetto. It's not like living in the hood by any means. So her and her mom live in this loft apartment on the West Side. And her mom threatened. Her mom's like, if you don't pay rent, I'm going to kick you out. But how many of us have had our mothers threaten us with all sorts of things, but then when push came to shove, your mom was like, yeah, I said I was going to kick you out and you better straighten up or I will. Like, mothers say that all the time, right? Right. I'm sure there are some moms listening right now who have had plenty of threats with their kids because they know that with the right threat, the kid's going to do what they want them to do. Just saying. Moms out there, please feel free to chime in. Email me at therealityreadingrainbow@gmail.com and let me know if I'm right. I have a feeling I am. So then this is when Erika talks about she got a job go-go dancing with a friend in New Jersey. So they would have to, so every night her and her friend would take the bus out to New Jersey and they dance at these different clubs. And, then she went into the life of a go-go dancer. Now, here's the deal. She was a go-go dancer. She was not a stripper. There is a huge difference. As we all know, a stripper, you either take all of your clothes off or you're topless or, you expose some sort of your body, right? But as a go-go dancer, she was fully clothed the entire time. She said she described her different outfits, like short shorts and, boobs out, whatever. But she never had to get naked. So yeah, she never had to get naked. So she was a go-go dancer. Come on, I live in LA. Back before COVID, I have friends who are go-go dancers. It's a go-go dancer seriously is different than being a stripper. Now, yeah, I mean, and I hope I'm not sounding sexist because I'm not meaning to sound sexist, but there's a difference. There's a difference because it's so funny because when I think it was last season on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, they actually went to Shakers. And so she built it up like it was like this showgirls sort of a thing where she's out. Okay, put it this way. I'm gonna make this movie analogy. Go with me on this. There's the movie Showgirls. Remember the movie Showgirls? And then there's the movie Flashdance. Showgirls, they were Vegas showgirls and they exposed their body and it was kind of seedy and kind of, dark and dirty and seedy. Then there was Flashdance where it was dirt light and all of the women were fully clothed and did dance routines. And Flashdance, it wanted to be dirty, but it never got past rated PG dirty, as opposed to Showgirls, which was dirty, rated R dirty. Erika basically worked in the Flashdance. And I'll give her credit. When she's describing it, she really did try to build it up like it was like this dirty, seedy environment, but it wasn't. And then she would talk about how, put it this way, last month I talked about Danielle Staub's working in Jersey clubs. Now, Danielle Staub's clubs that she was dancing in, by the way, if you didn't hear that episode, it's 2 episodes ago. Go back and listen to my Danielle Staub book episode. Danielle Staub was working in some dirty clubs, okay? She was working in some dirty, seedy, mafioso type clubs. Erika Jayne was not. Erika Jayne kept her clothes on, put it that way. Danielle Staub did not always keep her clothes on. And I'll throw allegedly in there just in case. Allegedly. So then Erika says that one night she's go-go dancing and the manager at one of her clubs pulled her aside and asked her, "What are you doing here?" And then she didn't understand that what he was saying. And he looked at her and said, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here." I.e., he was telling her that she deserved better in life. And she said that after he had this talk, she knew it was time for her to move on. So then she got a job. Then she started cocktail waitressing. Um, okay, so this is what's interesting about Erika. Okay, so her ex-husband is named Tom. Her son is named Tom, and her soon-to-be ex-husband is Tom. Tom, Tom, and Tom. So she started cocktail waitressing. She's 20 years old. She meets Tom. She gets pregnant at 20. Her and Tom get married. Her mom is very upset about this because her mom felt that she was, wasting her life because she's now going to be a young mother. She meets Tom. She meets Tom. She gets pregnant. They get married because she's pregnant. She has the baby named Tom. She then admits she was not very nice to her husband at the time. And that they ended up getting divorced, but she said that she had a big hand in getting divorced because she was not nice to him at all. And she says she looks at it now and she thinks that she may have had postpartum depression. So she's living in New York. Oh, and then by the way, not to make light of her struggle, but so, a lot of times you hear, I was a 20-something young mother. I got a divorce. I didn't have any money. I had to struggle to make ends meet. She tried to make it sound like that, but here's the difference. So, yeah, she was a 20-something-year-old young mother, but when her husband divorced, she moved back in with her mother. So, as much as she said how I was struggling, she moved in with her mother. She had childcare, so she could actually go to auditions, as opposed to the struggling mother who was like, I'm trying to be an actress. I'm a struggling single mother. I can't make it to auditions sometimes because I can't find a sitter for my kids, or I have to bring my baby with me to my audition, which I, as an actor, have seen women do that. I've had to bring my child or my baby to my audition because I couldn't afford or I couldn't find a sitter. No, she moved in with her mother and her mother provided childcare and her mom would watch her kid as she went to auditions. So there you have it. So she has her kid. She then decides that she would rather be in LA and pursue an acting career in LA. So she moves to LA. She leaves the kid in New York with her mother and the kid's father taking care of him. But so she decided to leave the kid back in New York because she said it was fair to the kid, which I'm not going to. When it comes to stuff like that, with people leaving their kids and stuff, I have no judgment when it comes to that because I am not a woman. I am not a mother. So I keep my mouth shut about that shit. But she moves to LA. She has a series of jobs. She gets a job at Chasen's, which is this restaurant in Beverly Hills. She meets Tom Girardi because he has a stake in the restaurant, like he owns a portion. They hit it off. She once again says his money has nothing to do with it, which I will say once again, if Tom Girardi was like an accountant making $50,000 a year or working at Target or driving an Uber and he was 33 years older than her, I doubt she'd give him the time of day. And then of course she goes into how Tom became rich and famous because he was involved with the Erin Brockovich case. If you don't know who Erin Brockovich is, there's actually a movie about Erin Brockovich starring Julia Roberts. Watch it. It was good, actually. She won an Oscar for that. So she moved in with him after only dating for a few months. So since she was a cocktail waitress, though, at Chasen's, and he was involved with Chasen's, they had to keep their relationship quiet and on the down low. But so a few months after they start dating, she moves in with him. Initially, she said that she moved in with him because she lost the lease on her apartment and she was looking for a new apartment. And so he was like, well, why don't you just come and live at my house while you look for a new apartment? So she says they moved in as friends, but they were dating already. But, whatever. So long story short is she moves in, and then of course a couple of months later, they're an item, and he's like, "Oh, you can quit." Why he asks her, "Why are you still working? I can take care of you." So she says she quits her job at Chasen's, and she says the last night of her shift at Chasen's, after her shift, she took her waiter's uniform and threw it in the garbage in front of everyone. which was basically like her looking at her coworkers and saying, "So long, suckers. I've hit the jackpot. I've won the lottery. I'm out of here." So she says that her and Tom, she brags then how her and Tom don't have a prenup. Well, guess what? With all the shit that's going down with the legal case, I bet she now wishes she did have a prenup, because since they don't have a prenup and Tom is now on the hook for millions and millions and millions of dollars that he has defrauded people, because of him defrauding people, since she is his wife and they don't have a prenup, she's on the hook for it too. So there you go. And then, and for those of you who don't know, let me go into a little bit. So the reason why Tom is in trouble is because he is a lawyer and they specialize in cases where people are involved in things like tainted water or tainted products or plane crashes and accidents. That's like his specialty. Like I in my personal life, I have a friend who is literally, he's an asbestos lawyer. That's what he does. And he's got a shit ton of money, and he's made all of his money from litigating asbestos cases. So like being a lawyer that bases your stuff on like things like chemical exposure, or I guess Tom had another case where it was a bunch of women with faulty hip implants. Like having that as a specialty is like a thing. So the reason why he is in trouble, or one of the main reasons, is because he misappropriated money that was supposed to go to families in a plane crash in 2018 from this place called Lion Air. So from this crash, these people were supposed to get $2 million, and he basically allegedly stole it. And he also owns tens of $millions to different finance firms and to different hedge funds who lent him money. One of his settlements, which he screwed people over on, was 4.85 billion. He allegedly screwed people on this. So that is why he is in so much trouble. And he literally used money to fund Erika's career. And so now the speculation is a lot of this money that he defrauded people from. Do you defraud from, or do you defraud with? The point is, the money that he allegedly stole from people is the money that he used to put into her career. So there you have it. Then Erika talks about how she's close to her grandmother. Her grandmother were very close. She said her and her grandmother did have one fight, and then she talked for an entire chapter. She goes into this. her and her grandmother had well, actually not an entire chapter, but a good chunk of one chapter. Her and her grandmother had a huge fight because her grandmother accused of breaking a statue in a fountain. And so they had a huge fight and they didn't speak for months. This was a plot point, people. And once again, to quote Kim D, so what? So then she talks about how she's close with her grandmother. They had one fight. The one thing that I did find interesting out of this whole book was the fact that she talks about when her grandmother died, they put her grandmother in like a biodegradable casket and buried her in this area that it's like a cemetery, but it's all biodegradable caskets. And so it goes back into nature. And so there's like all these trees and all that stuff. That actually sounded cool. So during the torture of this book, that was one thing that I actually enjoyed hearing about, with a biodegradable casket. Probably at that point, because I was so sick of this book, I wanted to hurl myself out of a window. So I was looking at options. Oh, so then she talks about how, when she married Tom, her and Tom finally got married. They got married at some country club where literally it was him and a lawyer and a couple of his buddies. So then she talks about, so she's 27 when she married him, right? And so she said, of course, she was like the hot young wife, and so all the other wives were mean to her. Okay. All right. They were mean to her. Okay, whatever. So then she says at 35, she was sick of living Tom's life. And so she decided that she wanted to have her own life. And so that's when she created Erika Jayne. So she said that she actually was friends with this producer named Travis Payne, like they knew each other from school. So she decided to become Erika Jayne. Tom funded her Erika Jayne career. And okay, this is the interesting part. So she's doing Erika Jayne for a bunch of years. Tom is funding it. Tom's funding it. So then she gets sick of doing Erika Jayne, and so she decides that she wants to quit. And so she had totally decided that she was going to quit, and she was going to stop doing it because she wasn't getting as famous as she wanted to get. Oh, by the way, this is the part that I thought that she dropped the ball on. Well, let me finish my thought, and I'll tell you why. So she wasn't finding the fame that she wanted as Erika Jayne. She decided to quit. And when she decided to quit one night, her and Tom went to a dinner party at Yolanda's house when Yolanda was still with David Foster. And so she started talking to Yolanda and telling Yolanda what was going on and how she was going to quit. And Yolanda said, hey, wait a minute, I have an idea. And that is how Erika ended up on the Housewives, because of Yolanda. So the point that she was going to quit, the only reason why you want to quit something is because you're not being successful at it and it's not working out for you. So obviously Erika Jayne and the fact that her husband, even though he was piling in all this money to fund Erika Jayne, obviously Erika Jayne wasn't working out because she wanted to quit, right? Right. And it was this 11th hour save from Yolanda. That's the only reason why Erika Jayne kicked in. That was the only reason why. It was because of the Housewives. So this is where I think that she squandered an opportunity with this book. So she's a middle-aged woman. She decided in middle age, and this is regardless of whether her husband sank money into this or not, as a middle-aged woman, she decides that she wants to become this singer, rock star, disco diva singer. And even though she had her husband giving her money for it, she did it. So this book could have been all about, hey, ladies, just because you're in middle age doesn't mean that you have to give up. And if you have a goal or if you have a dream, why don't you pursue it and let me tell you how? If she would have done this, it would have been an excellent book. Let me tell you how to do this. Let me tell you the ups and downs that I had being a middle-aged woman wanting to have dance hits and just started out. Let me tell you what I went through and what I did, and don't give up. And no matter how contrived the book would have been, because let's face it, the only reason why she got the fame that she did was because of her husband's money and because of Real Housewives, even though that's the reality of it, she could have at least been inspiring and saying, hey, ladies, don't give up your dream. Don't give up your goals. Just go for it. Follow these steps, and maybe this could happen to you. Boom. But no, she didn't do that. Instead, she just literally just bragged about details of her life that, as I said once again, to quote Kim D, so what? And I wrote here, the way that she talks about herself, she acts like she's like Lady Gaga or something, which she is not. Then, she says that, once she's on Housewives, the Erika Jayne career starts ramping up. Then she talks about how she ends up going on Dancing with the Stars and how they were mean to her on Dancing with the Stars. That was pretty much it. That was it. That was the book. And I left the book. And like I said, as I got to that last chapter of the book, I was like annoyed because I was just like, oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. But I finished it. And okay, and obviously, all right, regular listeners of this show, notice something. Normally, when I talk about a book, the books are always like 2-parters, sometimes 3-parters. Do you know that this is the first time in my short history of doing my podcast that I talked about an entire book in one episode? So it's obvious that I didn't like it. But you know what I did? By the way, you know what I did with the credit I got for returning this book? I got a book that I think that I am going to like. I used that credit to download Bevy Smith's new book. Now, I love Bevy Smith. I have a feeling that Bevy Smith's book is going to be very entertaining. If you don't know who Bevy Smith is, she used to have a show on Bravo. She has a radio show with Radio Andy. She's fabulous. She's fun. And yeah, so if you don't know about Bevy Smith, come back next episode and you'll learn about Bevy Smith. So that was it. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I could only work with the material I'm given. And Erika Jayne was not. Oh, one more thing before I go. She talked about Erika Jayne in the third person the entire time, and that bugged the fuck out of me. Anyway, if you want to get a hold of me, you can email me at therealityreadingrainbow@gmail.com. I am open to suggestions. People have been sending me suggestions, and they're all good suggestions. And like I've always said, if you send me a book suggestion, I will read it. I will totally read it. I love to read. I love biographies. It's fun for me. I love getting in there and finding out what makes these people tick. So keep the recommendations coming. realityreadingrainbow@gmail.com. Also, please write a review. A 5-star review would be lovely on whatever platform that you listen to me on. And what else? I think that's it. So Until next time, keep reading. Bye.